It's nice weather outside here today. I thought I'd come out here to my little weed patch, because you know, weeds are my life. And check and see if anything was growing that I put on these trellises. And in these few rows right here, I see that some bush beans are coming up nicely. Look at there. I do have some bush beans. I think these are the contender variety. I don't have as many coming up as I planted. And nothing on the trellises are coming up. They must have gotten too waterlogged. So I brought the beans out. I'm going to redo those. This trellis right here has the Cherokee Trail of Tears. And this one over here is supposed to be the homestead beans, Kentucky Wonders. But it is a nice day so far. We are expecting rain, 50% chance. But the sun is trying to peek out a little bit. And it is 70 plus degrees, supposed to get a high of 80. And the winds are south-southeast at 11 miles per hour. So it's nice right now. And I'm just out here piddling for a few minutes while Mom's resting and before I go to class. Today is class day for the Master Gardener program. And I just wanted to be out here playing in the dirt just for a little bit. It's so therapeutic. And while I'm thinking about it, these were supposed to be pre-soaked. But as you can see, our ground is super moist. So I'm not going to pre-soak them this time. I'm going to see if they'll come up without it. Because, like I said, we've got rain coming and the ground is super wet already. Well, moist. It's not drenched, drogging it right now. Some broccoli that I had planted the other day. I just came back and put a little compost around them. And I'm doing that throughout the garden spaces. And I replanted the Cherokee Trail of Tears. And instead of covering them with the muddy dirt, this time I covered them with compost. I put some compost around those little bush beans. Got a few of them that came up. Well, not as many as I planted, but that's okay. Got a few marigolds planted in with my weed garden. That's what I'm going to call it, a weed garden. I had a few that I started the seeds indoors earlier. And I put those out, and I still have a few more in the house. And then I also just came out and planted some seeds. Maybe by the time it's time to bring these tomatoes out, they'll be up some. I built myself a not so perfect teepee. This is just a trellis, a bougainvillea that is going to be for the bees and the butterflies and the good insects for the garden. Kind of proud of myself. I've never been one to do this kind of thing. I used the hubby's saw and cut the bamboo poles down. Then I used some wire and tied it together and dug me some holes and stretched it out. And no, it's not perfect, and you know what? That's okay. It's not meant to be. It's just something to let this plant trellis on. So now I'm going to go get the plant and get it in the ground. I gave away nearly 200 tomato plants and probably 50 pepper plants. And I am finally down to just what I plan to put in the garden. Except for these few little red cups that's going to my neighbor. But those peppers and those peppers and tomatoes that still need potted up but are probably just going to go in the ground in a few days. And then these plants. They are going in the garden. I'm so excited. We've got a few cooler temps the next couple days. I think the lowest we're going to get maybe 39 if it gets that low. So really they could go in the ground now. The local U-Pick farm just put 150,000 plants, tomato plants in their soil. So they're not worried about frost evidently. And I guess I could do that. But the ground is marshy, as you can see. Even under this mulch, the moisture's coming through. So I'm going to wait just a little longer. And I may just put a few out and see how they do. And kind of, you know, rotate it around a little bit. Succession plant. That way I don't lose all of them at once. Because some of them can grow here in the greenhouse. And I do have a couple in the house too. Got some new ones started of like black brandywine and a white cherry. And I have some other peppers started in the house too. Red, Marconi reds, Marconi yellow. Some yellow sunbright bells. I've got a couple little coral bells in here already. I've got them together. That's so little. And I was running out of dirt. I've potted up so many plants. But it has been great fun. I have thoroughly enjoyed learning how to do this, and I want all of these to produce massive fruit. In the giving away of plants this first year, there was a fella that we've been lifelong friends with that came by yesterday. I didn't tell him what I had for him. I just said, can you come over? I've got something to give you. So last year he gave me lots of banana peppers, and he's not on Facebook or anything, so he did not know what I had going on other than I told him I'm growing some tomato plants this year. I just didn't really get into it with him. But he got here and he was just amazed, and he said he's disabled and his wife's disabled. And he said, I was at the box store this morning looking at tomato starts. He said, but I just couldn't afford them. And he was telling me how he had lost everything he tried to can last year as far as tomatoes because he forgot to put acid in. And so he didn't know what he was going to do. And I said, well, that's why you're here. And he just kind of looked at me funny, and I said, you see these 3 trays? And they were cram-packed as full as I could get them. I gave him probably 60 tomato plants and a few pepper plants yesterday. I thought he was going to cry. I thought it was going to make me cry. But we held strong. And then we went in the house, and I had gotten a lot of, I'll probably have 60 or 70 pounds, but I'd gotten 20 pounds of rice for just a couple dollars. And it's the non-GMO, the gluten-free rice that is grown in Louisiana, not overseas. And so I gave him that too. I mean, I don't eat rice because of my diet, but I do, you know, feed my 2 patient crew and the husband some. Sometimes Mom doesn't really like it, and it's just not something I cook often, but I do stockpile on stuff like that just in case of a LCE or something. When I get the chance. But they needed it, and I was happy to provide it, because in my situation right now I can go get more if I needed to. You know, not always could I have said that. There's been times when my girls were young, we didn't know where the groceries were coming from, so I'm very sensitive to that. And I know you've heard me talk about I want to do my 5-year plan of a high tunnel and actually take care of elderly in our community by donating larger plants in big buckets to them, and then selling some of the starts, not for a big profit, but just so I can continue to do it and maybe pay a bill here and there and the cost of it. But that is why I am sensitive to those things, because I know what it's like not to have what you need. I've been there more than once. And so I think back here would be an awesome place for a high tunnel. Now the ground will have to be built up some. It looks like it's level. It is not. It slopes off to the back. Now right here is level, but the husband wants to put himself a mechanic shop. You see the Pink Panther over there. That's his newest toy. We have Pink Panther Racing. And he calls the garden a hobby. I tell y'all that it frustrates the fool out of me, but you know, we'll see how much of a hobby it is when he's eating all these tomatoes this summer. Praying that they produce. So y'all pray for them too. You may not believe in praying for a plant or an animal, but I do. And I know it works. So, and evidently it works, or these would not be up looking like this, because I prayed over every single seed. Every time I come in here and look at these peppers and tomato plants, I get that Bush's Baked Bean commercial in my head where he talks about, look at that beautiful bean footage. And I'm thinking, look at those beautiful plant footage. Yes, I have a strange sense of humor. And no, Duke, you cannot have the secret recipe. There's no secret recipe with me. It's just wait until they dry out a little bit and not overwatering. But when I do water at least once a week, I put just a little bit of fish emulsion in there. And that's all they've been getting. Now when they go in the ground, I'm going to do some other things, and we'll talk about that then. But they've enjoyed the fish emulsion, and I've not given very much. It's like maybe a 1/4 teaspoon to a quart of water, and I just add another quart if they need more or whatever. And I water from the bottom. I do not wet the leaves at all. As you can see, they still have some diatomaceous earth on them where I picked them up off the ground. But before they go into the garden, they'll be rinsed. So they're doing good. There's Rutgers and Amish paste and beef steaks and alpacas and Romas and homesteads and Bonnie Best. Arkansas Travelers. I've got several different kinds. Got a wish list on In My Gardener that I started again last night with some different types. And I've actually got a couple more in the house. I've got some black brandy wine and little white cherries and mini bells going in the house too, but they'll come out later on when they're bigger. They're not big enough yet. And some other peppers. I've got some Marconis and shishitos, things like that. Red and yellow Marconis in the house. But I wanted to go ahead and order some extra seeds for next year. Start working on that. Getting some of those things growing and saving some of those seeds so that in the 5-year plan, when I do get to do the high tunnel, I'm going to believe that I'm going to get to do that. Then I'll already have a head start on some seeds. So, if you're a praying person, you pray that God works it out according to His will. Now, if He does not want me to have a high tunnel, then that's fine. I don't want to do anything stupid or something that I can't handle. I'm pretty cautious about that kind of stuff. I've learned some hard lessons over the years about getting ahead of God. It's not the way to do things, for sure. Probably the main reason I don't have chickens, rabbits, and goats, and bees, and donkeys, and everything else is because I've tried to listen to God lead me on this and not get myself overwhelmed with too much to do. Because I do have the responsibility of the 2-patient crew, and they come first. This is an integral part of taking care of them, and so I put priority into the garden and learning it. But the 2-patient crew, they come first.